Morning, guys. It's David. It's Saturday, March 16th, 2024, and I want to kick off today by talking about this TikTok ban, which was a law passed in the United States by the US Congress. It's yet to clear the Senate, as I understand it. And of course, the rationale provided for this is because we're trying to protect the American people from Chinese propaganda. And I think this whole thing is totally outrageous. The reason I'm bringing it up is because when these sort of laws pass in another G7 country, they tend to find their way to the UK pretty shortly afterwards. So I've got no doubt that if they ban TikTok in the USA, they will then ban it in Great Britain as well. And as I was saying, China being a protagonist of, bad information against the American people, China are not restricted by the US Constitution, by the First Amendment guaranteeing freedom of speech, whereas the US government and the American people are. And I think it's crazy that the US government say, well, we've got this national security threat from China, which we can't prove, but we've got to then violate our own constitutional restrictions in order to protect the American people from it, rather than using this excuse as a way of teaching the American people what Chinese propaganda is, how to recognize it, and how they can then recognize government propaganda when it's coming from Washington, D.C. as well. So I'm totally against the TikTok ban. I've seen a couple of really great things on TikTok, over the last couple of years. I particularly like this channel called Long Island Audit. It's run by a guy called Sean Reyes, and he goes around America into these sort of local jurisdictions, and he's just met with total and complete contempt by public officials. He's always very polite. He always states the law. He always stands up for his rights and articulates them. And he gets shown nothing but contempt. No one in the sort of public employee sphere has any interest in, thanking him for standing up for citizens' rights or upholding the rights themselves. It's really, really eye-opening how poorly he's treated. He gets arrested, he gets threatened, and these are all by, public servants. And so that's a really interesting thing to check out. Also, I think all this moon landing stuff, all the insights into how NASA operates and, what the astronauts from the Apollo missions are up to these days, I think is highly, highly insightful. And this really is why the US government wants to ban TikTok, because it shines a light into areas that they don't want people looking. It really empowers citizen journalism and, freedom of communication across a wide area, at rapid speed, and in a way that's very, very easy to digest and undermines the power structure. So that's the reason for the TikTok ban. That's why I'm totally against it, and I'm looking out for this thing to appear in the UK. There was another story about Theresa May retiring. It's about a week ago, and you'll have noticed that a lot of the Conservative politicians are, choosing not to run for re-election, or suddenly getting ill, or suddenly have to retire. They see the writing on the wall after all their atrocious efforts in government. I'm conservative. I've always said that. But the problem is not that I'm conservative, it's that the Conservative Party is not. And not only are the Conservative Party not conservative, they don't even talk about conservatism anymore. You'll never have heard Theresa May talk about conservatism. She was too busy, advocating for and facilitating foreign aid. She just had a massive passion for getting British citizens money and sending it to foreign countries and foreign people. She's a really, really, really disgraceful human being, atrocious prime minister, much more of an atrocious human being. And, it's so sad that these people get to be sent off into retirement, without really having to have any accountability for the actions they took. Theresa May did do a general election right after she came in to Downing Street, but wasn't brave enough to do another one after her, Brexit disaster was the outcome of that had been shown how she operates to the British people. She had 3 years to, meet that deadline, and then she had to do the extension, and then she said, we don't have time, we're not ready in time. Well, we're not ready in time under your leadership. you know. So I have no time for her. I really have no time for any of them. But you'll notice there's a big trend of these people running for the hills because they see the writing on the wall. And, that's the kind of gutless people that they are. I mentioned a while back, David Cameron, he didn't want to face the voters after the referendum. Theresa May didn't want to face the voters after her tenure. Boris Johnson didn't want to face the voters after his lockdown and his drinking during the lockdown and all the parties he had during lockdown. And then it sounds like Rishi doesn't even want to face the voters. Liz Truss didn't want to face the voters. Rishi didn't even want to face the Conservative voters on the way in. So none of these people want accountability. They just want to come in, grab some cash, and head for the hills. So bad people. I wanted to also talk about shortages, if you're seeing any power outages. If you can keep me informed of these, I really want to put the word out there about things that are happening. You'll be seeing a lot sort of shrinkflation. You'll be going to the supermarket, you'll be buying a packet of crisps, and you'll be thinking, hey, this will fill me up for the middle of the day, and there's like 2 crisps in there. So keep an eye out for that sort of stuff. You'll be seeing packages, really shrinking in size. You notice like the Coca-Cola cans these days are like these sort of thin things. They're slightly taller, but much, much thinner compared to what they used to be like. Big shrinkflation is underway, and I'm expecting a lot of power outages as well to come, later this year. And I want to warn people about those. Get prepared where you can to cope with power outages, and just expect them when they come. I've been talking a lot about opportunities abroad, and it's really not so much about the abroad thing, although that is a benefit, not so much about the tax thing that is a benefit, but if you can earn money in the UK and cut your costs right down, all this margin in between is all profit for investment. And the way to cut costs is to go and live in a jurisdiction where costs of living are very, very low. You might have to drop your quality of living or your standard of living a bit, but if you're dropping your cost by a lot more, that to me is a net benefit, and that's something I always want to bring up to people. Also, if you're a retiree, you're on a fixed income through your pension or, whatever the government program is, the state pension, you can move abroad, you can still collect these benefits, and you can, live very, very happily and at a much lower cost and maintain your standard of living rather than seeing it fall by inflation. So I don't want to, give anyone sort of financial advice, but, this is a great option for young people. This is a great option for retirees. I've done it. I've lived abroad in the United States. I've lived abroad. I'm here in Georgia now. I'm able to get back to the UK, pretty semi-frequently, and you're able to maintain all the links with people there, and enjoy the benefit of lower costs elsewhere. I mentioned the USA Bank Term Funding Program had ended on Monday of the start of this week, and there hasn't been too many sort of cascading dominoes yet, although I think it's only a matter of time in the banking system in America that will start to fail, and that will, transform the consequences over to Europe and over to the UK very, very quickly. This is going to be, unlike sort of the Great Depression, the bank runs this time are sort of all digital, and they'll go at rapid speed. There's been a lot of talks about US banks trying to limit social media discussion about them online, so because they don't want people to say, hey, look, there's a problem at the bank, go and get your money out, and that sort of news to spread like wildfire. No one in the news media is interested in protecting the interests of the average citizen, both in the USA and in the UK. And, my approach is always to try and do the opposite of whatever the news recommends. A lot of talk about interest rates, whether they're going to start cutting. I did a video a while back about how the USA Federal Reserve, whatever decision they make on interest rates, the UK Bank of England copies them like 24 hours later or 48 hours later, despite all the sort of posturing about will they do this or won't they do that. All they're going to do is copy the US Fed. So whether Bank of England should rename itself the London Fed, I'll leave it for you to decide. But 100% of the time, they copy what the US Fed does. even though they go through this rigmarole of propaganda is what it is, of saying, oh, we haven't decided, or oh, we'll look at the data, or oh, we'll think about it, or we'll discuss it with the other members. They're just going to copy the Fed. That's all they're going to do. So a lot of interesting things going on. Elites of society totally out of touch with everyday people. I think this TikTok ban shows that more than anything. And for you and me, I think our objective is really to be really shrewd and diligent about our investments. Have as diversified a portfolio as you can. Get out of paper assets everywhere you can. Get into fixed hard assets. Spread far and wide. And don't invest in anything that you do not have a specific expertise in. I've got some expertise in certain things. You've got expertise in some things that are totally different to me. Focus on the areas where you really know a lot about what you're investing in. And if you don't know much about it, or if it's just a fad, if it's something you heard about from someone on the train, don't get involved in that. You need to be investing in real things, things you can hold in your hand, things you can touch, and things that you really know a lot about to make work, because we've got some really difficult economic times coming. And, the best way to get through these is to be as prepared as you can be up front, not making any reckless or, gambling type decisions going in, and then wait for the good deals to come, because there's going to be so many great deals, and it's great to be, financially stable and secure enough to take advantage of those great deals from people who have been less prudent and shrewd as you and me. So I want to thank you for watching these videos. Please send them to your friends and your family, or people you think will benefit from this message I'm talking about, which is about preparation for the upcoming economic decline that's going to be very significant and historic. There's probably going to be a new currency on the other side of it, although I don't think the CBDCs will be the ones that stick and ultimately are the ones that are chosen. But exciting things happening all around the world, and great opportunities for British people to take advantage. So thanks a lot for watching this today, and I hope you have a great weekend.